Hi everyone, I'm Bigfoot. Today I'm talking about a very important topic, and actually it's a topic that was probably one of the first things that I researched when I decided that I was going to thru-hike the Appalachian Trail, and that's personal hygiene. In addition to that, I'm going to share with you some tips that I learned on the trail last year that will help not just keep you clean, but also help improve your own personal hygiene. All right, well, let's talk about the first topic, which is what nature calls. So what do you do when you have to go number two? It's probably the first thing that you think about when you are deciding that you're going to go out and live in the woods for a ton of days, or at least one of the first things it was for me. All right, well, the rule of thumb is when you have to go to number two, you want to go 200 yards away from the nearest trail, the nearest water source, the nearest campsite. And any shelter usually has a privy, so you should be pretty good there. Now, when you do have to go number two, it is really important that you bury your waste. You're going to do this for a couple different reasons. Number one, if you don't bury your waste, there's just going to be waste everywhere, toilet paper flying through the wind. It doesn't support leave no trace. It's freaking nasty, and people are going to step in it, and obviously there's lots of other problems that come with that. Number two, when it rains, it's going to wash away the waste to whatever the closest and nearest water source is, which is a whole entire different problem because that's going to contaminate the water. We drink the water, and yeah, you can understand what happens there. So to do this, you are going to need to dig a hole, and you want to dig a hole 6 inches deep. Now, what I did was I bought a trowel. It's a ultralight trowel made by QWiz. I'll put the details below if you're interested in buying it, but it weighs like 0.3 ounces and did the job out there. Now, other folks have used a tent stake just like this to dig their hole. For me, the weight that I had with just bringing the trowel and the simplicity that you have with the trowel, I just decided to sacrifice the weight. Now, when you are digging a hole out there, out in the Appalachian Trail, it's not like digging a hole in your backyard. There is tons of rocks and tons of roots. So it might not be super practical bringing a tent stake depending on where you're digging your hole. Now, most folks are going to go to the bathroom right in their hole. And at first, I'll tell you, it takes a little bit to get used to aiming. Most people aren't used to pooping, standing up, or leaning from a tree, or sitting over a log. So you'll get better as you go and get more practice, I promise. Now for toilet paper, you want to make sure that you put it in a Ziploc bag. For me, I always made sure I had a little bit extra toilet paper because I did not want to run out. So rather carried an extra 0.1 ounces of toilet paper just to be safe out there. And then what I would do is I put my trowel in the bag just like this. So it was really easy for me to grab it out and then go into the bathroom, because most of the time when you do have to go number two out there, you probably have to go pretty bad because you're probably waiting till the last possible minute to try to make it to a shelter or something like that. At least that was for me. So you want to have this in a place that you have quick access to. Now when you go number one and you have to pee, the rule of thumb is make sure that you are doing it 200 yards from a water source. And for obvious reasons, because again, we drink the water. Now, when you get done going to the bathroom, each and every time, you want to make sure that you use hand sanitizer. I always bought the little PEARLY sanitizer that has the little body here attached to it. That makes it just easy for you to be able to attach it to your pack. But definitely very important that you're using sanitizer every single time you get done going to the bathroom. Now, other times you want to use sanitizer is anytime right before you eat. You want to make sure you have clean hands. And then anytime that you touch something that that other hikers are going to be touching. So that would be like bear cables and bear boxes. There's a few bear boxes out there, trail registers, things like that. But anything that other hikers are going to be touching, because you can't be assured that everyone else has great hygiene practices like you. But very important to have hand sanitizer with you. Next topic, deodorant. So I'll give it to you straight, 99.5% of the people, maybe even more, are not going to bring deodorant. And those that do bring deodorant are going to ditch it after the first 100 miles. And what deodorant does do is it is going to possibly attract bugs and other wildlife with its smell. For me, I was part of the 0.005 whatever percent that actually kept deodorant with me the entire time. All right, the reason why I decided to keep my deodorant is really because it helped boost my morale. I would put this on in the morning and I would put this on when I got to camp at night. It made me feel cleaner. I probably smelled a little bit better. I don't know how much better, but probably a little bit. But it just helped my morale out. What you're going to find when you're out on the trail is there are going to be certain little quirks that everyone has. And things like this will help boost your morale. And if there's something that's going to help bring your spirits up, I totally think it's worth it. Topic number 3, keeping your bod clean. Well, this is an interesting topic. So I swear that there were some hikers out there that were having contests on how long they could go without a shower. For the most part, you're really not going to smell a lot of the hikers out there because they smell like you and you just kind of lose that sense of smell. But there were a few hikers that I honestly could smell from like 2/10 of a mile away, almost a quarter of a mile. And I didn't really get that. My advice is anyone that is going to be out on the trail for an extended period of time, obviously especially like a section hike or through hike, any opportunity that you can take a shower, I would seize that opportunity. Now for me, every time that I got into town and stayed in town, I always took at least 1, sometimes even like 2 or 3 showers. Now I mentioned this story before, but there was a hiker that I met in Hot Springs at the local pub in town that actually had to end his through hike because of his poor hygiene practices. And what it came down to was he didn't wash his body enough and developed some sort of skin rash, it wasn't a disease, but it was something that really irritated his skin. And what he ended up having to do was get off the trail and take about 30 days to recover his body from this disease with medication and lotions and things like that. His advice to me was every single opportunity that you can shower, do it. Now, in addition to taking a shower every single time that I was in town, when I got to the mid-Atlantic states, really between Maryland all the way through New York, I actually carried a little vial of soap. And I did this because there were about 6 or 7 different places that I can recall that you actually could shower for free. Many of these places were public beaches, and I know there was a campsite in Maryland that actually had a shower house in their bathroom. Now, if you don't want to carry this, what I did before I actually started carrying this, the first couple I passed, I actually brought a Ziploc bag in the bathroom, and I would squirt hand soap from the sinks into the Ziploc bag, and then I would take that in the shower and use that to clean my hair and clean my body. So if you want to save some weight, that's something also that you can do. Now, keeping clean while you're actually on the trail, it was a simple decision for me. I decided to keep wet wipes with me the entire time. I probably bought a pack of 20 wet wipes every single time that I resupplied. And what I did was, at the end of every day, I would use between 4 to 5 wet wipes and clean my entire body. I would start off with my feet, because it's really, really, really important to keep your feet clean and dry. So I would always clean my feet with wet wipes first, and then I would do the rest of my body. Now, a lot of times I use wet wipes opposed to maybe using a wet towel or rag like some other hikers, because I was just getting into camp so late. I was hiking 12, 13, sometimes 14 hours a day, and I would roll into camp somewhere around 8 o'clock at night, right before nightfall. So I didn't really have the luxury of going and cleaning myself off before it got dark. And honestly, I was just more concerned about getting my camp set up, getting my bear bag set up if I did that, and eating, and then of course cleaning myself off and changing. So wet wipes were an essential piece of gear for me. Now, what some people actually do is they leave their wet wipes open and let it dry out so they can save some weight. And then once they need to use their wet wipes, they just put some drops of water on it. For me, honestly, I just got lazy and I just didn't want to deal with that late at night. I just decided to carry the extra few ounces and not dry my wet wipes out. I mentioned about keeping your feet clean. Very, very important topic here, guys. So what most hikers do is have some sort of rag they use to clean their feet with. So I brought 2 different rags with me. One was my lightweight towel that I bought at REI, weighs about 0.8 ounces. And I use this most of the time to get any of the condensation off of my tent. But a lot of folks use a rag like this to clean their feet. And what was probably the most popular and what I would recommend is actually using a light load towel. The light load towels are really awesome. I'll do a review on these so you actually can see what they look like if you've never used these before. But they weigh like 0.1 ounces or 0.05 ounces, and they last quite a while. You don't want to put this through a washing machine because they probably won't survive, but a lot of hikers I saw using the light load towels as their foot towel, and then they would just lash it to their pack during the day to let it dry out. But light load towels are awesome for a foot towel. All right, topic number 4, managing those pearly whites of yours. So you're gonna want to brush your teeth at a minimum every morning, if not also after dinner. That's what most hikers do. For a toothbrush, you probably heard this before, taking a regular toothbrush and snapping it in half, and just to save on some of the weight. Now there are ultralight toothbrushes out there. That weigh less than a half of a toothbrush. My opinion on those is they are so light and they have very few bristles that they almost don't really do a great job. For me, it was just worth carrying an extra 0.1 or 0.2 ounces and have a proper full toothbrush at my disposal. Toothpaste, I used a travel size toothpaste. Now there are like these really itsy bitsy vials of toothpaste that you have out there, and in my opinion those really aren't really practical. They will probably last you maybe like a couple weeks at most, maybe like a week and a half, but then you've got to buy toothpaste or bum toothpaste from someone else and squirt it back into the little vial, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I just decided to have a travel size toothpaste with me. If you don't want to carry all the weight, then when you buy this, empty half of it out in the garbage or something like that, whatever. And what I don't see a lot of hikers do is floss on the trail. I think floss is a multi-purpose piece of gear. Not only do you want to use it to floss your teeth, but you can also use this as thread. So I highly recommend bringing dental floss. What you can do is just take the whole body off and pull out, so all you have is just the roll of thread and the little metal piece on the top there, so you actually can cut your dental floss and throw that in a Ziploc bag. Again, I was lazy and I just brought this whole thing. Topic number 5, laundry. Kind of like showering, I highly recommend that you do your laundry every time that you stay in town. I typically did my laundry about every 5 days, and I was typically resupplying every 5 days. I needed to recharge all of my batteries to support my vlogging obsession out there. So I didn't really have a lot of choice, but it worked out really good because I think that's a good time period of how often you should do your laundry out there. Some people wait like weeks to do their laundry, which I think is a big mistake because you are sweating so much, and all the salt and perspiration that you have on your clothes, it definitely makes you prone to probably some infections and things like that if you don't do a great job with upkeep of your laundry. Now, one thing that I am actually doing differently on every thru hike from here on out is I'm actually going to have 2 pairs of hiking clothes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate those hiking clothes, and really what I'm going to have 2 of is 2 pairs of shirts and 2 pairs of boxers. And what it comes down to is really just bringing an extra shirt and an extra pair of boxer briefs. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it is really demoralizing when you have to get up in the morning and put on your wet clothes that you hiked in the day before, especially if it's cold out. And typically my shirt and my boxers were the pieces of clothing that took the brunt of all of the sweat and really didn't get very many opportunities to dry out. Then with my wet hiking clothes, I'll just lash them to my pack and continue hiking in them. So then basically every morning I always have a dry pair that I'll keep on rotating. Well, the last topic is miscellaneous items. During the course of your hike, it's going to be important that you keep your nails maintained, especially your toenails, because while you're hiking out there, your toenails continue to grow, and if you don't do a good job maintaining those, you have a probability of those toenails jamming up against your toe box of your shoe, and that's where you see hikers actually get those blood blisters below their toenails, and they end up losing their toenails. And there's also other issues that come with that, like infections and things like that. So make sure you keep your nails trimmed. What I did, instead of actually bringing a pair of nail clippers, I just used my Swiss Army knife. I brought the Victorinox Swiss Army knife, this one right here. It's really cheap. It's less than 11 bucks. And what I did was I actually used the scissor function of this knife, and it actually worked fantastic in clipping my fingernails and my toenails. So this is a great piece of multifunctional gear. Now, the other piece that I want to talk about is more kind of on the injury side, but I think it meshes well in this. And that is preventing chafing between your thighs. It happens to me pretty bad. So what I did is I actually bought the 9-inch Ex Officio boxer briefs. The Ex Officio boxers, I think, are some of the best boxers that you have out there. They are a little bit spendy, but they do a great job with maintaining on the trail. I didn't have any issues with getting any holes in these, and they wick all of the moisture from your body. And I can't really recall having my boxer briefs really smell bad. But I went with the 9-inch leggings opposed to the 6-inch like many hikers do, just to be able to prevent that chafing from my inner thighs, give me some more protection. And this little guy right here I cannot live without, Body Glide. I use this religiously. I probably went through one of these suckers about every 3 weeks or so, but this was really important for me out there on the trail. I would apply this on any areas that had lots of friction. So for me, it was my inner thighs, it was my nipples, and then it was my behind. And this was really the reason why I was able to do a lot of big miles without having a lot of issues with chafing on my body. Well, that wraps it up. You probably noticed that I didn't talk about one specific topic for obvious reasons, and that's feminine hygiene. A couple people did great pieces on this topic. One of the folks is, of course, Dixie at Homemade Wanderlust. Now, I will put the details to her video below, but she did a great piece on hygiene on the Appalachian Trail, and the last portion of her video talks about feminine hygiene. And the last is an article written by a female accomplished thru-hiker, and is on Andrew Skirka's webpage. I will put a link to that, but that just talks specifically about feminine hygiene. All right, well, that wraps it up, guys. If you have any personal tips that you've used out there that works really well, I would love to hear from you so we can share that with the community here. Stay tuned for my next sighting, and remember to always follow Bigfoot.